Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today our friend Bill wants to know if I have any recommendations for other MMA channels. I got you covered, Bill. It's like a regular MMA channel, but better. Go show Grandmaster Jesse some love, and while you're at it, if you want to pick up a rash guard like this, go check out our mutual friends over at xmartial.com, formerly known as NoGiBJJGear.com, where you can get the MMA Mexican martial arts rash guard and others like it. Links in the description down below. And don't forget to use my code Ramsey10 for 10% off your entire purchase. Here's a non-MMA question I got. Ramsey, why do Chinese swords bend? Some of you have seen movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and these other modern Wushu type of films where they have these bendy swords. What's up with that? You couldn't actually use one of these in a fight, could you? And the answer is very, very simple. Why do they have these bendy swords? Now this is a practice sword, and that is your answer. This is a practice replica of a Chinese Jian, the Chinese long sword, used in fighting styles such as Tai Chi Jian, the Tai Chi sword style. And you'll notice it's bendy. Why is that? Well, it's because the end is very thin, much thicker than the front right here. The reason being to emulate the balance of a well-made sword by taking weight away from here and adding a little extra weight toward the hilt. And so you can essentially have a cheaply made sword that is balanced like a well-made sword. Now, if you have not handled a well-balanced sword, you might have no idea what I'm talking about here. But there are well-balanced swords and there are poorly balanced swords. And they can weigh exactly the same, and one of them can feel much, much heavier than the other, depending on where the metal is distributed in the blade and how. Here is a different Chinese Jian, and you might notice this one is sharp, and this one is not bendy. This one does not have that type of floppy give to it. Okay? This is a replica of a Chinese Jian that would actually have been used in battle. Now, that being said, this is not the most well-weighted sword that I've ever carried. In fact, it's pretty poorly weighted. It's not a great sword. It's a replica. It's one of those hang-on-the-wall type of models. But the reason I bring this one up is because it does not have a bendy blade. Now, as I hold it in my hand right here, okay, and with the Jian, it was common to hold the index finger like this for thrusting. Okay, and some people might also ask about these tassels. That's decorative. There are a lot of apologetics about why Chinese swords have these decorative tassels on them, and I've heard people say, well, you could flash them in people's eyes and blind them. It's decoration. It's decoration, the type that you will see for Chinese New Year all over the place. In the month of February, in the city of Shanghai, man, you'll see red tassels everywhere. Anyway, it's decoration. But this is not a well-balanced sword. I wish you could pick up and feel it. You can feel it's kind of top-heavy, right? It feels like, it's carrying my arm downward. A more well-balanced sword would have more weight around the hilt and more weight in the bottom, and it would have what is colloquially called a blood groove, which isn't really a blood groove. It's kind of a hollowed out section of the sword to take weight away from certain parts of it, to make it more well balanced. Why? So you can take a piece of steel that weighs a couple of kilograms and wave it around as if it were much lighter than that. So again, like I said, this is not a super well-balanced sword, so wielding it in a single hand it's a little bit unwieldy. Let's go back to the practice sword now, which is made to emulate a well-balanced sword in the cheapest way possible. You'll notice it's got no groove in the middle. Historical martial arts nerds, please remind me what those things are called. I know it's not called a blood groove, but a lot of people will call it that colloquially. Notice it doesn't have one of those because it's essentially just a thin sheet of metal that tapers toward the end and is thicker toward the handle. Again, to emulate the balance. Notice I can move this one around quite easily, quite handily. So that is the reason. Now a better question is, why did they use practice swords in big budget movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon and other modern popular Chinese Wushu films? Why is that? I honestly don't know why they would make that stylistic choice, other than the fact that they're safer to do a sword fight scene with, because if you use a sharpened sword, full weight sword like this, that doesn't bend, essentially a real sword, even if it's not well weighted, and you make a mistake in the fight choreography, you are going to get seriously hurt. If you make a mistake with one of these, the consequences will be much less dire. You might get scratched. You could even get an eye poked out, but the consequences will be much less dire. I have a friend named Chris, and he works with Donnie Yen's stunt team, and he's got all these little scars over his body, mostly from fight scenes involving weapons, including these essentially fake Wushu weapons that bend. There's another reason we might see, these bendy ones in modern movies, and that, I believe, is because it's what we're used to seeing. In fact, we're used to seeing it so much that there is actually a lot of apologetics and excuses and reasoning and rationalization of how a thin, bendy sword like this could have actually been used in a real fight. Now, I've got a whetstone, and I could sharpen this up and make it razor sharp, and against an unarmored person who's not even wearing a shirt, sure, I could slash him and give him some nice cuts and nicks. But as soon as they put on even clothes, this would be a considerably less effective weapon. As a stabbing tool, let's see here. Can I stab myself? I mean, that doesn't feel nice, but I'm stabbing myself in the arm right there, and it's not doing much. Yeah, not even a scratch. If I stab myself in the chest with this thing, yeah, not much. Yeah, and these are the same type of weapons that the modern Shaolin monks use for their demonstrations. I've got some Shaolin spears over in the corner. I'm going to show you guys the Shaolin spear to the throat trick that they do and how that one's done in another one of these videos. But yeah, you can place one of these practice weapons up to your throat and you can bend it and be completely unharmed. Now, don't try this at home, kids, because don't run to your kitchen and get out some knives. This is not a kitchen knife, right? This is a relatively safe thing. It's not sharpened. It's bendy. Again, that's why we see it in movies. This is not a historical sword. This is not what ancient Chinese warriors carried out to the battlefield. So, that is why we see the bendy, fake, demo Wushu weapons in the movies. That is what they are for, just to be well-weighted, just to be easy to move around in your hands, and just to be a little safer in the fight choreography. If you have any other questions about martial arts, life, the universe, and everything, please let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. Now get out there and train. NoGiBJJGear.com is now xmartial.com, serving your needs beyond just no-gi Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, find brand new equipment for mixed martial arts, kickboxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, and more at xmartial.com. As always, use my code Ramsey10 for 10% off everything on the website. Once again, that's xmartial.com. And also, shout out to Relx Bit, makers of fine, high-powered massage guns. Link in the description below as well. Oh yeah, I got a discount code for that one too. Not going to leave you hanging dry there.